Peter Pure is here to share his passion and incredible knowledge of life's enhancement. He has dedicated his whole life's purpose to outstanding health and longevity. And in this seminar, wishes for you to join with him on this incredible journey. Who is Peter Pure? Peter Pure is an honorary member of the Complementary Medical Association, recognized by the public and doctors alike as the leading organization in the field of ethical, professional, complementary medicine. Peter Pure is also a member of the British Holistic Medical Association and the British Longevity Society. He is a guest lecturer at the Geneva Anti-Aging Medical Conference and has also lectured at London University Birkbeck College. He is author of the book Lush Salads. Must try them. His celebrity clients have included leading actress Neve Campbell, star of the Scream trilogy, Radio 1 DJ Danny Rampling, and Dr. Stefania Lecari, who has just run 1,000 miles in 30 days across Morocco on live plant nutrition. His clients regularly get 3 to 5 hours more energy every day.
6 hours? Literally 4.5 hours, 5 hours.
Energy is amazing.
I'd say about 5 hours.
I work on about 6 hours sleep a night.
I have about 20 hours of energy, definitely.
His clients regularly increase their brain power.
Just feel sharper, more on the ball.
His clients regularly clear their skin up.
But now you can see the skin is so smooth.
My skin improves a lot.
Right.
His clients regularly wave bye-bye to headaches, coughs, colds and flus.
I haven't had a cold for 18 months.
Now it's your turn. Now it's your time to turbocharge your health and take your performance level to infinity and beyond. Please stand up, everyone, and give a warm welcome to the stage your health educator for this weekend, Peter Pure!
Good evening. Good evening. Okay, so tonight we're going to have a very exciting evening. Who's ready to enjoy and have even more fun than you ever thought possible? Say yes. Yes. Is that a yes? Yes. Thank you. So we are really going to dive into really finding out how to turbocharge your experience of living. Does that sound exciting? Yes. That's pretty amazing. And really what I'm going to show you, it's not about a tool. It's not about a tool. I'm not here to promote tools. There's a lot of tools. There's a meditation tool. There's a live food tool. There's a macrobiotic tool. What we're going to talk about is going from tools to results. Who wants results? Put your hand up in the air. Great. Now, here's the paradigm. Let's say, how many of you relate to having a crappy old computer and you're having a lot of troubles with that? Has anyone ever had a machine like that? I think you all went to the same shop. The crappy computer shop. So yeah, you've had an experience of a crap experience with a computer, and it's like maybe it's slow, maybe you have a fatal operating system error, you have crashes, you got spam coming from yourself. You've got, like viruses, you open a bit of software and the whole thing grinds to a halt because you've got a low amount of memory, the chip speed is really not happening, it's really slow. How long are you going to put up with a machine like that? How long? You're going to be pretty annoyed by it, aren't you? Just like a few hours every day, after about a week, you think, I'm done. I'm going to get myself a new machine, right? Yeah? That's just a computing experience. That's just a few hours a day, maybe 8 hours a day, 12 hours a day. on a machine, and it makes your whole work and play life very difficult. What about your physical experience? What about if your mental memory is slow? You know, like sometimes you kind of like can't remember where you put your keys. You meet somebody and you know their name. But it's too embarrassing to ask. You can't say, hey, what's your name? And they say, you can't ask me that, I'm your brother. Or sometimes you really want to get creative, but sometimes perhaps you can't think of creative solutions to the problem you have. Or sometimes you're happy and then you're not so happy. Sometimes you've got a tremendous amount of drive to make things happen in your world, and other days it's just like, I just can't get people to get out of bed. Not to mention if you have like some operating system crashes, like, oh, back pain, headache, I mean imagine having a whole lot at the same time. Back pain, headache.
We've got a chiropractor here, so that's
You can't, you can't remember, you know, you can't remember where you put your Alzheimer's pills. And that not much right. And the thing is, what these things, and what I'm pointing out is that all these things, they all stack up to a very lackluster human experience. Do you follow? A really lackluster human experience. So what we're going to do is we tonight are going to break the paradigm. Are you ready for breaking the paradigm?
Yes.
Here we go. So here's the paradigm. You would have heard this paradigm your whole life. And I can tell you, even most of my peers, and what Mike was saying is that, what do? I speak at the world's elite anti-aging medical conferences. The top doctors on the planet are on my personal, I would say Rolodex, but we don't use them anymore. You know, and it's like, and you just don't get to do a nutrition degree and then they invite you to say, oh yeah, come speak to the world's top doctors, right? They don't just hand invite you for that kind of thing. So you have to get to a certain level of understanding. Now, here's the paradigm. The average patient gets sick, whether it was a cold or a headache or heart disease or stroke or cancer. They got something nasty that they don't want. They go and see a health professional or they go and see a doctor and they think about getting back to average, an average experience. The average belief is that the average belief is that health is the absence of disease. The average person thinks if they're not sick, they're therefore healthy. It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. Think about if my subject was finances, okay? And I said, well, you're over here, you're bankrupt. Let's just get you back to average. What's the UK national average income? £22,500 a year. How many of you are excited about that? Nobody, right? Nobody. Because you're kind of like, average sucks, right? Who wants to be average? And here, we're a member of a group where we're pushing forward because we want to get better than average results, right? Say yes?
Yes.
Absolutely, we want to go way beyond average. So if I was talking about finances, and you was having trouble financially, or you was bankrupt, I wouldn't say, hey, let's just get to £22,500 a year income, you know, tax on top, right? And it's all going to be good. No, that sucks. We want to go double that, 45 grand, quadruple it, 90 grand. Keep on going, become a millionaire, become financially free. Financial independence, so we want to go way beyond average. So in that way, it's easier for me to describe to you about the journey I wish to invite you on. I don't know where you are in the spectrum of health, okay? You might be average, you might be below average, so we'll talk about what average is in a minute, but below average, I mean, if you're over here, you're dead, we can't actually see you. But you know, you might even be dead, but no one, I don't see anyone. No dead people here tonight? Good. So anyway, so the thing is, I don't know what kind of situations some of you face, or some of the people that you have faced. But basically, if someone's over this end of the spectrum, and they're not doing too great, Guess which way we should point them in? That way or that way? Yeah, superior health. Now, you might have only been experiencing a cold. Guess what? My last cold was about 20 years ago. Maybe a little bit more than that. And I have to share with you. I don't miss it. I had a headache. I must have had a headache around about, I don't know, 19 years ago. Don't miss that either. I had a backache one time in my life. Don't miss the backache. I had a flu at the age of 23. And I had my first 23 years of life on this planet never having a flu. At the age of 23, I left home, went to university, got to have some fun at university, run my immune system down a little bit, got myself a flu. 3 days of having a flu, felt like a truck had run over me, and I compared that experience to 23 years of not having a flu, and I came to a conclusion. Overall, it's better to go through life without flus. And I decided I'd never do it again. And what enabled me to do that is having the correct knowledge to enable me to not have that experience. Because I don't believe there's that many martyrs out there. I don't think there's people thinking, if I could only get a backache, and cancer, and heart disease, and a stroke, and be impotent at the same time. Right? Nobody thinks like that. It's just that if you don't know how to do the opposite, you end up with really poor results, right? You might even know somebody that has had a headache from time to time, right? Or had a cold from time to time. And the thing is, we don't even question these things. They're so prevalent. There's so many people that experience that as part of their human experience. We don't even think, wow, that's crazy. Let's not do that. It's just that everyone's doing it, so we think, well, everyone's average. Everyone's doing it. Fine, I've got it too. It's just one of those things. Guess what? £22,500. It's just one of those things. Everyone's doing it. What's your decision? So what I'm going to do is, I'll share with you a little bit about what's average. I've been doing this, I've been teaching 10,000 people over the last 7 years about superior health, physical and mental performance, and I can share with you what average experience is. Average experience is being lethargic, sometimes not being very organised, sometimes not having that much drive, sometimes forgetting things, maybe not being so happy, sometimes a little sad, not being so creative, headaches, coughs, colds, flus, osteoporosis, or bone fractures, being overweight, bad skin, bad breath, constipation, fibroids is pretty consistent in ladies, circular blood flow issues, lack of energy or lethargy, what else is in there? Oh, holes in your teeth, dental problems, grey hair, that's another problem with average people experience. What else is that? Oh, fungal issues, things like candida, yeast infections, bladder infections, viral stuff like herpes, cold sores, warts. I'm only just beginning. Does anyone relate to any of that lot? And that's average. I'd expect it to be, right? I mean, if someone was saying, "Oh no, I've never had any of that. What happened to me in my whole life?" It's like, great. Well, come on the stage with me. You know this stuff. You can teach this stuff. So what I'm sharing with you is, no matter where you are on the spectrum, you don't have to put up with below average results. You don't even have to put up with average. You can blast all the way through that, and you can go all the way through average to exceptional. Who wants to go for exceptional? Why not? What else you got to do in life? Let me share with you what's exceptional. At the exceptional level, you get 3, 4, 5 extra hours of energy every day. And that doesn't necessarily mean time when you're awake, or that's going to be part of the picture. But you know, sometimes you kind of like, you're awake, but you're not really awake. It's kind of like, you know, sitting down on the couch watching TV. You're kind of awake, but your brain is not active. You don't really want to do anything. Your body's not active. So 3, 4, 5 extra hours of energy every day. Getting a lot more drive, getting a lot more creative, getting a lot more happier, improving your memory. Get a lot more outgoing. Those last 4, they're all related to how much neurotransmitters you have in your mind or your brain. And what I found is my patient analysis, everybody that I meet has no plan about how much neurotransmitters they're going to have. So, and that's based on nutrition. That's as thing's kind of cutting in and out, right? testing neurotransmitters. All right. So those four being outward going, being creative, having drive, and being happy, they're based upon four neurotransmitters. Those four neurotransmitters of GABA, acetylcholine, serotonin, and dopamine are based upon nutrition. If you're not eating for peak levels of neurotransmitters, guess what? You might have all your neurotransmitters running at about 50% of where they optimally should be, and instead of having peak emotional performance, you're kind of like, some days you're sad, sometimes you can't figure out creative solutions to the problems that you face, sometimes you don't have any drive, and some days you're not organized. But a little bit, right? Maybe half and half. What else? Memory issues, solving those things. Exceptional memory, exceptional brain speed. Has anybody, I'm not going to go into this too much, but has anyone seen the movie Limitless with Bradley Cooper? Has anyone seen that movie? Okay, a few people. Basically, it's a Hollywood movie, Bradley Cooper's in there, and he finds a way of massively speeding up his brain. You can do that, for real. I've done that for myself. My brain speed is just so much faster than anybody here's because I've measured it and I know what average brain speed is and I know what my brain speed is. It's like the difference between someone with Alzheimer's and a 20-year-old. That's the difference between my brain speed and the brain speed of someone who's my age. You can do a lot. Improve your eyesight. I've got so many clients that just like improve their eyesight and they get rid of their glasses after a while, or they have weaker glasses. Turning hair from grey back to original pigment. We just had a lady, Judith King, she did that in the last year and a half. She had a load of grey hair when she started. It's now half of that has all turned back to original pigment. Why? Because grey hair is an outward sign and symptom about what you're doing around natural sources of B vitamins and natural sources of all the minerals on the periodic table of elements. And if you've skipped out on those things day after day, week after week, year after year, it's going to show up somewhere. Where does it show up primarily? Grey hair. Not to mention getting rid of any drugs, pharmaceutical drugs that you might have ever been taking. Some people on all sorts of medication for all sorts of situations, and getting rid of all sorts of diseases and ailments. That's what's exceptional. We'd like to be at that level. That's my daily experience. And the thing is, I gave you the laptop metaphor. Unfortunately, if you have a crap laptop, you just go into a new computer shop and you have a go with new ones, and you think, wow, everything works. And you have an immediate contrast between your current level experience and the desirable level experience. Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to use my body for a few days. But you can upgrade it. You can upgrade your own. Yeah, you can upgrade your own, and that's really what my strategies are about. And that's really exceptional, but you don't have to stop there. You can go for slowing down the rate of aging. Slow down your rate of aging by about 1/3. And we all have that experience. Sometimes you meet someone and you're like, no way, I can't believe it. Surely you're not 62. You look like you're 22. You had that experience? And sometimes you're like, freaking heck, they're 22, they look like they're 62. Yeah, you had that experience. That's the difference between biological aging, how old your body actually is, and chronological aging, which is just the passage of time. There is a very loose correlation, but I would tell you it is an exceptionally loose correlation. And some of you are thinking, yeah, why do I want to be interested in anti-aging? Why would I want to slow down the rate of aging? Yeah, this is what I speak about at medical conferences. Here's why. Let's say, based upon the life path that you've chosen, in 10 years from now, you was on a collision course with Alzheimer's. Well, what about if you slowed down your rate of aging at this point onwards by 1/3? You now wouldn't get Alzheimer's in 10 years, it'd be 13.5 years. That would buy you an extra 3.5 years to learn from me about how not to get it in the first place. Right? So you can slow down the rate of aging, you don't have to put up with crap results, you don't have to put up with bankruptcy, financial, health-wise, you don't have to put up with average, you can blast all the way through that. Don't even have to put up with exceptional, don't even have to put up with slowing down the rate of aging. What's on the far side of that? Manifestation. Manifestation. You have an idea, things just happen. And I know we've all got a certain amount of extrasensory powers. I know it's a topic which can come up at places like this. Guess what? it increases. The better you get in physical, mind, and body, guess what? Your extrasensory powers increase. That's my real world experience. It's incredible. Guess what? You don't even have to put up with that. You just keep on going. Here's what I believe. I love life so much, I've decided this is the best life I've ever lived. You know what? I don't know about before life and after life. I do believe in reincarnation, but I know I'm having a fantastic time right now. And I think, why not just live as long as I possibly can, being as youthful as I possibly can with all my faculties intact. How does that sound for you? Does that sound like a good idea? Yes. Yeah? Okay. So, and really what's going to create that, and I'm just going to give you an idea that we hear this from personal development, but failure, be it health or any other area, or success, is not some monumental thing you're going to do in the next 5 seconds. It is the accumulated weight of good decisions in judgment and bad decisions in judgment amplified by time. So if we was back on the financial metaphor and we said, oh, you know what? 2 little boys getting a family, and I was seeing that my friend's book is over there, Paul Havens, and he's speaking about business subjects. But let's say 2 little boys were in a family, and or two families, mother and father, son in each, and one son, the parents teach him, son, here's what you want to do. Spend £10 more than you receive every day. Well, at the end of the first day, it's only £10. I mean, £10 is not a lot of money, but what about if that little boy continued with that as a strategy and did that every single day for 50 years? How would his life look like then? Pretty shocking, right? From a financial perspective. What about the other little boy? His parents say, hey, you know what? Save and invest £10 of what you receive every day. And let's say after the first day, he's only got 10 quid. But after 50 years, how would his life look? So it's that small differences that make a big difference when we compound it over time, right? You follow? And so you hear about, now we're going to play this game. You ready for a game? Yes. Is that a yes? Yes. Okay, it's called fill in the blank, right? I'm going to say a sentence, and I'm going to deliberately leave off the last word of the sentence, and then we're going to see all about your creativity, we're going to see about your memory, your brain power, to fill in the last word of the sentence, okay? Yes. All right, I'm going to keep this easy, right? So here we go. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. Very good. Give yourself a round of applause. Okay, now, what about if you did that as a strategy every day for 50 years? Might work out pretty good for you, huh? What about a Mars a day helps you work the rest of the day. Oh no! And what about if you did that for 50 years? Let's say you mistook the Mars bar for the apple. Some of you are relating to that scarily well. And it's a strategy that's going to lead you to a disaster thing. And the thing is that when we start speaking about sort of mainstream medicine, you go with mainstream medicine, you go in there and you say, you know what, I'm not feeling very creative today. They're going to be like, get out of here. I'm going to find some people with some real problems, you know what? Or let's say, oh, you know what, I'm a little bit overweight, I've got a bit of I've got a pimple on my arm. They're not going to be interested in that. Whereas this is basically, if you're heading in the wrong direction in any area of your life, when would now be a good time to turn it around? Now, of course. Of course. I mean, the thing is, you don't have to, if you're like, navigatory animals or migratory animals such as albatross, or whether we start looking at birds or planes or boats, they all have instruments to measure where they are in relation to their goal. And if you're heading in the wrong direction to your goal, right, you don't have to wait until you get there to find out. So let's say, because health never gets taught in the family, does it? So health never gets taught in school, it gets taught in the family. So we have this idea that X, Y, Z disease runs in the family, whereas really health habits run in the family. If you grow up in a family and your parents have a really slack attitude towards weightlifting, the chances are Let's say you grow up in a family and that your parents have a really slack attitude towards daily vegetable juicing. The chances are, let's say you grow up in a family and your family has a really great attitude towards meditation. The chances are, yeah. So we kind of learn these things from our family. Now, and if you want to see where your health is going, it's very simple. Just look at the people that have been doing the same pattern as you for 30, 40, 50 years longer. For many of you, aunts, uncles, parents, grandparents, and also people in the ethnic group, because ethnic groups tend to eat certain foods. Like, I'm half Dutch. You know what? Dutch people, you know what they eat every day? Cheese, bread, and they have that for breakfast. Unless they've had ham and bread for breakfast, then they have cheese and bread for lunch. They like to shake it up a bit. And then at night, don't forget the boiled potato and gravy. Every flippin' night for 15 years. My sister's over there smiling. We've got the same mum. You know what? So it's going to give you certain results. And have a look and see what you like. And see, you know, have a look and see if you like what you see. And so that's really, you know, a premonition of what's going in the future. Now, how many of you have decided that, well, I'll give you the Government Office national statistics right in here in the UK. 82 out of every 100 people in the UK die of heart disease, cancer and stroke. That's a vast majority. That's average. How many of you have decided that that is not for you and you're never going to get that? How many of you have actually decided? Okay? And then if we was to look at your day-to-day strategy to ensure that you don't actually get it, if I was to interview you, because I know a lot about solving those problems, if I was to interview you, would you be convinced that I would be convinced that I'm thinking, no way is this person ever going to get by those things based upon your actions? Would I be convinced? I mean, not so many hands go up. See, it's easy to make the decision that we're not going to do something. It's not so much, it's about getting knowledge. And this is what I teach. I teach 4 things. And then we're going to get into some tips, okay? Because I like some tips, but I like to give you a bit of overview. You find the overview interesting, by the way?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, cool. And some big picture stuff. So here's what I teach. Number 1, we start with right knowledge. It's not about motivation. I like what Jim Rohn said in that regard. He said, you can't motivate people. If the guy or the girl is an idiot and you motivate them, now you've got to motivate the idiot. They're doing the wrong thing twice as fast. Right? So it starts with knowledge, correct knowledge, right knowledge. Then we go from right knowledge to right action. See, you can't just get the knowledge, like an apple a day is good, and then eat the Mars bar. Because if you got the knowledge, and then you don't do it, you're going to get the same result as if you didn't know. Does that make sense? Or what was one of the personal development phrases? You know, the guy or the girl that can read but chooses not to is no better off than the person that can't read. Right? So, right knowledge, right action. Guess where we're going to go after right action? Yeah, well, we've already decided what our outcome is. I've showed you with my outcome to live as long as I possibly can, with all my faculties intact, looking as young as I can, with everything working. At the very minimum, I'm going to at least hit my human genetic potential of 110, you know, unless I die in an accident before that, but it's very unlikely that I will, because if we had to wait until you die of an accident, the average person lived to the age of 600. Very few people make it to the age of 600. So it's actually heart disease, cancer, strokes, which is killing everybody way before they get there. So why not at least make it to 110? Personally, I think that's a bit limiting. I'm more of a high achiever type. Who's a high achiever type? So the high achievers, you know, if you're not a high achiever, just go for 110. If you are a high achiever, why don't you come to my 200th birthday party? I can tell you the date. I just had my 39th birthday, and it's going to be on the 12th of February, 2173. That's going to be my 200th birthday party, and you're all invited. And so far, nobody said, but Pete, I can't come, flipping double booked. Right? So we got our outcome, we get the knowledge to make sure that we're on track with our outcome, we take the right action, then there's one other critical thing. How many of you have either got a car or seen a car? That's everybody, and the people that didn't put their hand up, you're lying. How many of you are liars? Alright, to say it again. How many of you have got a car or seen a car? Right, everyone. Fantastic. Now, if you've got a car or seen a car, you're going to do an annual checkup every year on it. What's that called? Yeah, an MOT. And why do you do an MOT? To make sure it's roadworthy, to make sure, you don't wait until you have a major breakdown before you do an MOT, right? You don't wait until you have a heart attack before you do an MOT, right? Or maybe you will. When do you have an MOT done in your car?
Every year.
Every year. Every year. When's the last time you had a full MOT on your body? The majority of you have probably never done that, and the majority of you probably take better care of your car than you do of your body. You'll have a full medical checkup on your car every year, but you wouldn't have a full medical diagnostic on your body every year in relation to your goal. Now, I do that. Of course, one thing is I know what optimal constitutes. The other thing is I'm friends with the world's elite medical doctors, so it kind of helps out. Anything I want, it's like make a phone call, and it happens. But what I can share with you is that most of the tests I do, probably about 75 to 80% of the tests I do, any GP could authorise. And they let me know exactly where I am with neurological decline, with cancer, with heart disease, with stroke and heading in that way, lean body mass, bone density, markers of inflammation, things like that, vitamin C levels, mineral levels, they know exactly where I'm in with things like that. And I'm also looking for the upside, like how fast does my brain work really? And it works really flipping fast. How good is my memory? Really, and it's super good. How am I actually doing really when it comes to chronological aging versus biological aging? I'm doing super duper well. I could read out the figures, but I want to give you some tips, okay? But the thing is, I do this every year for myself. And therefore, right knowledge, right action, measure to make sure that you're on track, and if you're not on track, change it. Therefore, you can be certain of getting the result you want. Does that make sense? I would say that's a pretty moderate approach. That's my approach. You would have probably heard a lot of health speakers. Okay, you see doctors and naturopaths, and goodness knows everybody's speaking about this and that, and all. I call them wafflers. I had this nutrition student come the other day. She said, "Do you mean my lecturer at college is a waffler?" I was like, I said, "What makes you say she's a waffler?" She said, "Well, she's rather overweight." I'm like, so she's speaking about nutrition and she's rather overweight. There's something wrong with that picture, right? There's something wrong with that picture. Like Dr. Robert Atkins promotes his diet and dies of a heart attack. There's something wrong with the picture, right? So I believe in not just being an example for I do this for myself, and my contribution is sharing with other people how they can do the same. So we want to make sure that we're on track with our goal. And guess what? If I even start to head in the wrong direction in any one of 100 parameters that I get measured every year, guess what? It's like, turn around, let's keep going. We don't want to do a Tommy Cooper. Do you remember Tommy Cooper? Some of you, in the front row, they remember them, in the back row, they don't remember them. So Tommy Cooper was a famous comedian in the UK, and he was performing at the Royal Albert Hall. It was televised live on TV, which is why so many people know it, because they was actually watching it at the time when he passed. He was on stage at Royal Albert Hall, cracking jokes, pouring his heart out, having a great time, and next thing you know, killed over with a heart attack. Very common experience. And you know what? Do you think he really looked in the dressing room mirror saying, actually, you know what, I feel as if I'm going to have a heart attack in the next hour? Maybe I'll spend my time ringing up my wife, ringing up my children, saying a few last words to them? No, because these things, you don't feel how they're going on. When you look in the mirror every day, how do you know where your silent inflammation markers are? You have no clue, do you? You have no clue. But if you've got your silent inflammation markers high, you can be pretty sure you're going to have every single nasty disease going. Cancer, heart disease, stroke, Alzheimer's, you name it, you're going to get it. And there's no way of telling by looking in the mirror. So that's why the measurement device gets really, really important, so we can measure that to make sure that we're on track. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah? So now there's a difference between average and optimal. The average GP, when you get medical results done with medical diagnostics done with a GP, they're going to say like, oh, you know what, your blood pressure's fine. What does that mean? Fine in mainstream medicine means average. I mean, crikey, how many kilograms overweight should you be by the time you're 50? How much elevated blood pressure should you have by the time you're 50? You shouldn't have any, should you? You shouldn't be overweight by the time you're 50. You shouldn't have any elevated blood pressure by the time you're 50. And guess what? Many of you are really young pups. I think most of you are under the age of 60, right? We're designed to live to 120. Jean Calment lived to 123, longest human being to ever live, French lady. 123, so 60 is not even halfway compared to that. And guess what? If you're already making some major mistakes in your strategies every day, where you've started to get some nasty niggly health issues, becoming overweight, bad skin, graying hair, headaches, coughs, colds, flus, blah, 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 osteoporosis, fungal issues, it goes on, not to mention anything serious. You're on the wrong track. And my question to you is, what is it going to take for you to say, enough is enough, I'm not putting up with this crap anymore, I'm done with that stuff, I'm going to just zip right out of that and get on to excellence. What was it going to take? Like for me, when I had a flu at the age of 23, I said enough is enough, I'm done with that. I'm not going to write it into like, being massively overweight, elevated blood pressure. I'm not going to ride it all the way into having a stroke, having a heart attack, having cancer, but some people, they need a bigger rock on their head before they wake up, if you get the metaphor. Right? Some of it, if God gives you a little tap on the shoulder, tap, 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 headaches aren't good, flus aren't good, tap, 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 and you're like, nah, I don't want to do anything about that, tap, 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 tap. Then you start thumping it, like, bang, 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 it's like, no, migraine's fine. It starts, it's like, how much pain do you really want? And so what I'm sharing with you, and I know this is brand new information, but you don't have to stop at being average. Here's the tools. With my information, it's all about, you don't have to go from sick to average, blast beyond that, go to exceptional. So that's a little bit like the effort. Was that interesting?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. I want to give you some tips in the time we have left. How much time do we have left, by the way?
You've got 20 minutes.
It goes by so quick. So let's give you some tips. So I probably speak for about 30. I could speak for 30 days non-stop and not say the same thing twice. That's pretty cool, isn't it? So I've got quite a few good things to say. But what I sort of do is I just have a look in this time that we've got available to have a look at some tips you can have just at the supermarket. Because I've taken up this new hobby. Taking pictures of people in the supermarket with my iPhone. And you heard this phrase that you are what you eat. Guess what? You also look like what you eat. And I like to take pictures of people in the supermarket on the phone. It's like, because with a phone you can just sneak them away. It's like, trolley full of rubbish. Oh, big belly. It's like, trolley full of healthy food. Oh, look, 60-year-old happy and slim. Oh, trolley full of processed food. Wrinkly and sad. You know what? It's really interesting. So, here's some choices you can make at the supermarket. Apples. Harvard Nurses Health Study, one of the largest studies ever done with human nutrition. Apples are particularly excellent at keeping you away from lung issues, especially things like asthma. So if anyone's got asthma, or you're the lady you're thinking about getting pregnant and you don't want your children to have asthma, there's a lot of stuff that we're breathing in the air, like 4 apples a week, it's going to make a huge difference in that area. Huge difference. Apples are especially good for your lungs. They also, look at this, there's a rodent study with breast cancer. When apples were fed to rodents, the equivalent of 1 apple per day, there was a 25% reduction in breast cancer for an apple a day. That would definitely keep the cancer doctor away, wouldn't it? Or the oncologist away. An apple a day. But guess what? When they had 3 apples per day, it reduced the breast cancer tumor by 61%. Just an apple. All right, 14% reduction in heart illnesses with apples. B2 increases your stamina. You have more energy. This is a study in Exeter University in this country. By the way, I'm just going to whiz through this, but like these yellow things here, this is where the study information is. If you want to find out more, maybe that way you can. Yeah, massively improve people's energy. It's what we all want, isn't it? Energy to move forward with your goals in life. Remember the crappy laptop metaphor. If you have a crappy laptop, it's just going to make anything you want to achieve difficult. If you have a great laptop, it's going to make anything you want to achieve from a computing perspective much easier. Now, what do you want to achieve on your laptop? I have no clue. But whatever you want to achieve in your life, whatever you want to achieve on your laptop, it's going to be better if you have the stuff that works, right? Turn to the person next to you, digging on your head saying, I'm getting the stuff that works. Get the stuff that works, get the laptop that works, get the body that works, guess what? Your life will be so much more enjoyable. Berries. Effective at killing oral, breast and prostate cancer cells. Now when it comes to fruit and vegetables, people say it's fruit and vegetables. Actually it's vegetables, berries and fruit in that order. Because when you hear fruit and veg, people are like, oh yeah, I'm going to eat fruit because it's tasty and sweet. But then they miss out on their Brussels sprouts. Some of you are like, yeah, I miss out on my Brussels sprouts. Here's looking at the blue skins in foods, things like the blueberries, the elderberries there, black carrots, even the dark skin of grapes, and it changes your genetic coding. It changes your genetic expression. It's a field of science that we talk about at medical conferences. It's called nutrigenomics. What that means is the ability of nutrition to impact your gene expression. So, what you might want to do is any gene that is associated with cancer and a short, horrible life, switch it off. Any gene that is associated with living an extraordinarily long time and being healthy and happy and young and vibrant, switch it on. And so nutrigenomics is a science of which foods do what. So here, blueberries, they confer anti-aging on your genetic expression. They improve your eyesight. Very excellent for vascular function, whether we're talking about strokes, arteries, cold extremities, impotence, erectile dysfunction. Guess what? It's the whole vascular system. Like if a guy can't get it up, guess what? Vascular blockages. It's not just his penis you have to worry about, it's his heart. It's his level of stroke. If he's going to get a heart attack, because it's the same thing. It's the blood flow tubing pathway of his body. It's the vascular system. It's the whole thing. In ladies, it's also expressed as cold extremities. It's the vascular system. Cold extremities, guess what? You might have some blockages around your arteries. You might have some blockages going from your heart to your brain. If that gets exacerbated, you call it a dip in mental performance, or you call it a stroke. Blueberries, reverse brain degeneration. Wow! 2 things prevent brain degeneration: strawberries and spinach. Eat strawberries and spinach, they will prevent brain degeneration. But what about if you're just getting this information for the first time, and let's say you're 50 years old, you've already got a certain amount of mental decline that's accumulated. But if you're on blueberries, you can get back to the younger levels of performance. You know what? Just as simple as picking some blueberries rather than a banana, right? Enhanced abilities to learn. You want to learn more? It's not on blueberries. It's carrots. 70% reduction in women who ate 1 additional carrot per day. A 70% reduction in strokes. That is phenomenal. 22% reduction in heart attacks. This is what the big things, this is what the big boring things that people die of, by the way. Blood cholesterol comes down. Cruciferous vegetables, things like broccoli, kale, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, they activate an enzyme of longevity. You've got 2 very potent longevity enzymes, which is called glutathione peroxidase. This one massively increases that. So what do I want to do? I want to have a little bit of Brussels sprouts every day. I have that fermented. But you know, also like kale. Like so, I had some. Like I made a big vegetable juice. Bag of kale went in there. I was drinking that on the way over. You know, like broccoli. It's great. It's great to eat. You know, you're eating some fish, eat some broccoli. That's your fibre. So it's just getting these things in. Look at that. Doubled glutathione in liver in 3 days. Tripled glutathione in pancreas. This is This is an enzyme which is hugely anti-cancerous. You might have heard someone that died not that long ago. You might have been eating the apples, but you weren't eating the broccoli. Yeah? Could have done with that kind of pancreatic cancer. Garlic, live longer, well known for that. Slows down senility, and actually garlic is especially effective, and the way it probably works is that it's a major detoxifier. So for those of you that have got like silver, mercury, amalgam fillings, there's mercury poisoning right there. So the whole thing with the Victorian era, that the people with being mad as a hatter, that's mercury poisoning. Well, garlic gets mercury poisoning out of your body. So if you've had mercury fillings at some point in your life, and just if you're not sure what that means, just open your mouth, look in the mirror, and you've got anything that looks silver in there, that's a mercury amalgam filling. That's mercury poisoning, and that's making you somewhat mad. Now guess what? You don't have to be a certified nutcase for it to be a problem. You could only be like having those mental moments. Right? But whether you're having a mental moment or just a little bit or a lot, right, I'm just going to share with you, I think that's going to detract from having a peak experience of life. What do you think? I think you're going to have a lot better being fully in control of your brain every day, right? So, getting rid of mercury fillings, garlic, regenerates your brain, helps with learning. Look at that. 42,000 women who ate garlic more than once per week, 50% less colon cancer. I mean, colon cancer. Have you got any idea about how much of a pain in the arse that is? Your red blood cells are built out of chlorophyll. What's the importance of that? Your red blood cells here is the only thing that takes oxygen around your body. Oxygen is energy. It's not potatoes. It's not bread. It's oxygen. Try this experiment at home. Not here. Stop breathing for 30 minutes. See how much you're moving at the end of it. Like you want energy, you need to get more oxygen. And so what we want to do is, when I say, well, I get my clients getting 3, 4, 5 extra hours of energy every day, very simple. We just get them their red blood cells in a lot better state. Then in addition to that, we clear out the vascular system pathway. So let's say there's a motorway and you're in a Ferrari, brilliant, but if it's rammed jam full of traffic, you're still not going to be getting anywhere. We want to clear out all those juggernauts. Yeah, clear out all the blockages of processed food and cooked food and junk food that's in your pathway. Your brain runs off oxygen. Now you notice this when people start drinking alcohol. What's happening is they're sticking all these red blood cells together when they drink alcohol. Then the oxygen doesn't reach their brain. What happens at the beginning of the evening, the conversation is fairly sensible. As the evening goes on, it takes a nosedive. They walk home with a traffic cone on their head. Some of you have met people like that. You know what? You can do that with food as well as you can do that with alcohol. Here we're seeing the molecular structure of red blood. Here we're seeing the molecular structure of chlorophyll. Notice any similarities? The same. How difficult is it going to be for your body to build that, the molecular structure of red blood, out of a donut? I mean, what do you think of the molecular structure of a cheese sandwich is? It's going to keep your body, like, down for quite a lot of food hours. Green tea, a couple of cups of green tea prevent all-cause mortality. It's what we call in medicine. Any chance of dying from anything, you're going to die a lot less if you have a couple of cups of green tea every day. Guess what? If you don't like them hot, let them go cold. Instead of having a fruit juice as the basis of your smoothie in the morning, have a cold cup of green tea, put that in there. Now it's not so sweet. Now you don't get the sugar rush. 20% less throat cancer in men who drink 1 cup of tea per day. Awesome. Pancreatic cancer, 63% less. Wow, that could have been interesting news. Better teeth, parsley, stronger bones. Papaya and pineapple, they stop you from being rigid. One of the things is that as you get older, you get more and more rigid in many ways, both with mental performance and also in your body. You get more stiffness, and what that's called is it's called scar tissue. You have a small amount of it, fibrin. A large amount, fibroid. Systemic fibrosis, and we all get it. So what enzymes in pineapple and papaya do is they eat away at that scar tissue. So you're going to have something sweet, rather than a donut, have papaya. Get into anti-aging at the same time. Tomato, wow, 35% risk reduction in prostate cancer. In many we eat 2 to 4 servings of tomatoes per week. 50% reductions in deaths from cancers in all sites. That means it doesn't matter what type of cancer it is, where it is in the body. If you were to eat like 5 packs of tomatoes a day, 5 packs of tomatoes per week, 50% reduction in cancers. That's pretty outstanding news. Heart disease. So cancer, that's number 1 killer. Heart disease is number 2. Strokes and more distance, number 3. 48% less likely to develop cardiovascular disease in men with the highest levels of lycopene. That's the red colour of the tomato. Awesome. Pack of tomatoes. 5 packs of tomatoes per week. And I know we've only had a very, very, very brief time together. Hopefully you found it interesting. Has it been interesting?
Yes.
Well, guess what? We've got some Q&A coming up. But what we'll do is, if those of you that wish to find out more, I do some free talks on this information where we can go on for about 3.5 hours for free in London. Are you going to interview me now?
Yes, definitely. So really just want to say, first of all, can we give Peter a really big round of applause? Open it up to the floor, see if we've got any questions for you. So who'd like to ask Peter a question or share from, loads of hands.
Okay, you sir.
Yeah, what do you think of eggs?
Eggs. All depends where you are. What I can share with you, in short, and the biggest studies done on human nutrition, and this was the Oxford University and Cornell University together with the Chinese government. And what they found out, in short, is that humans are not designed to eat animal products. In fact, the more animal products that somebody eats, the more horrible, nasty diseases they're going to get. Period. And the human diet is very simple. It's actually vegetables, leaves, herbs, fruits, nuts, seeds, and a little bit of seafood. And if you consume that and steer clear of everything else, you'll do really well. That's what the human diet is. And there's no confusion over what a horse is supposed to eat, but humans is like, so many different health ideas. It's really, when you understand the science, there's a lot more clarity. Where does eggs fit in the picture? Well, I'm not a fan of egg whites because it's an animal product and it's an unnecessary animal product. What I can also share with you is any flesh product, seafood in addition, is that if you cook it, it becomes highly carcinogenic. That means it creates a lot of cancer in your body if you cook it. So there's no animal out there that cooks their fish before they eat it. Bears don't cook their fish. Lions don't cook their giraffes or anything before they eat them. So if you're going to eat any animal product, including fish, and if you don't want cancer, if you want cancer, now you've got a strategy. Cook it, right? It becomes very carcinogenic. But if you don't want cancer, don't cook it. It's very critical. But personally, I do eat some egg yolk, and the reason why I eat some egg yolk is because you've got cholesterol-based hormones, which are all efficient. It's like when you get over the age of 30, and there's some of us that are almost there, when you get over the age of 30, your hormones go into decline, and so your body makes some cholesterol, but if it's not making enough, let's say you get to your annual measurements, and you measure not just your levels of cholesterol, but also your cholesterol-based hormones. Well, if you're deficient, like you've been like hardcore militant vegan for 20 years deficient, then it's like, yeah, maybe a couple of egg yolks here and there, raw, is going to be a great idea.
Raw?
Yeah, that's how I eat my egg yolks, raw egg yolks. So raw egg yolks are lovely. Everyone likes egg yolks. Taste of custard, taste of white apricot, taste of eggnog, taste of salad dressing. Everyone loves raw eggs. Dipping your soldiers into egg yolks, not that I have toast, but it's lovely. And but if you've been eating animal flesh over the last 10, 15 years of any quantity whatsoever, or you've been eating like milk from animals, you're definitely not going to have a cholesterol deficiency. You're very likely to have too much cholesterol, and that becomes a heart risk factor. So only if you've been a militant vegan for about the last 20 years, never eaten any animal products whatsoever, maybe a couple of egg yolks would be a good thing for you. Everybody else, you want to get measured. Check.
So are you saying fish per se is bad? So I only got fish, don't eat meat as such.
No, fish is not a bad thing. It's the cooking of fish that becomes carcinogenic. Fish is actually, when we looked at the longevity studies amongst the populace of the world, you take countries like some of the Asian countries like Japan, they eat a lot of seafood. Guess what? They have the best longevity statistics on the planet. They live longer than anyone, and they don't get the big nasty diseases that we get from land-based animals. So it's a huge difference between aquatic animals and land-based animals. Land-based animals is just a proven disaster for human beings. Marine life is actually really, really good for us. It's a very vital food, and especially like the marine fatty acids, like omega-3 fatty acids, excellent for your brain and brain architecture. But the thing is, if you cook it, it becomes carcinogenic. If you eat it raw.
To any extent, if you're saying if you grill it or if you
I mean, if you cook it a little bit, you get a little bit of cancer. If you cook it a lot, you get a lot of cancer. Make up your own mind how much cancer you want. I mean,
Dean.
Yeah, I'm interested in your thoughts about children that are born with different conditions and illnesses.
right. Okay, there is a genetic factor. The genetic factor is 30%. We found that out in studies with identical twins. It's 30%. The good news is 70% of how your life works out is under your control. And that's fantastic. Now, Robert Young has this phrase, and he says that genetics is like having a loaded gun. Lifestyle choices is like pulling the trigger. You know what, you might have, I mean, there's no great big secret here. I don't have much hair. Guess what? That's pretty strongly genetic. I mean, there's not a whole lot I can do about that. I mean, I'm trying, but it's pretty strongly, it's tenacious, right? And so you might have some tenacious issues that are going on, but you don't have to exasperate them. So let's say, you know, you had a genetic tendency to get cancer in a family. Guess what? All the carcinogenic activities, you want to wave them all bye-bye, and everything that's proven to keep cancer out of your body, you want to embrace all that, right? So you things like, we've all got different genetics, and again, let's use a car metaphor. It doesn't matter if you've got a 2CV or like a, you know, a Hummer tank, right? You've got to look after it. And there's nothing you can do to change the vehicle that you've got when you're talking about your body. Some of us are just more robust in certain areas than others. That's just what we've inherited. We've got to work with that, but that still means we've got to look after what we've been blessed with as much as possible, because as far as I know, if you don't look after your car, you can buy a new one. But if you don't look after your body, this is the only body you're ever going to get.
Okay, we've got time for one more question. Oh, we got 3 hands.
Four more questions.
Okay, first person stand up gets the question answered. Grayson.
Grayson, time.
Yeah, and just your thoughts on meat. My nutrition, things like red meat is a form of iron absorption.
Yeah,
Its bioavailability is direct, as opposed to, say, spinach, which we know, sorry, so as opposed to spinach, which does have high levels of iron, but it's also known to be not bioavailable in the body, so you can eat as much as you want, but for, say, a young girl who's at a heavy period, taking the same form of iron and red meat is directly into the system.
Yeah, I mean, well, are you saying this from a female perspective or a male perspective?
I'm just saying in that example.
Oh, okay. Well, again, you know, like, the thing is, like, here's the thing. It's kind of like, here we're going to go through talking about what's good to results. That's really the name of the game. So you hear, like, from health ideas, you think, oh, somebody says, oh, yeah, carrots and broccoli is good. And they are good. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to turn your hair from grey back to original pigment. It's not effective in terms of getting results. So the thing is, you focus on the results that you want, and you're going to measure that in terms of your medical examination. So if you're too little iron, which is a tendency for menstruating ladies, because they have iron blood loss every month, then you might want to do something about it. If you have too much iron, which is a tendency for us gentlemen, then what happens is, because we don't have that blood loss on a regular basis, and if we eat red meat, we tend to have too much iron, and that becomes a pro-ager. Basically, iron is a highly corrosive metal. That's what rust is. Rust is oxidized iron, and the reality is that there's a reason why men die 4.5 years earlier in the UK than women, and the primary reason is they're simply rusting out their body with excess iron. So as a man, we want to get off the red meat, and we might actually based upon our iron scores, we want to lower that corrosive amount of iron in our body and actually donate blood every now and again to lower the iron. So again, you know, I know it's a bit more answer than you were actually asked for, but it is really, it's decide what you want, get the right knowledge to help you get what you want, take the right action, and then measure your results to see how you do. And if you've got too much iron, or too little iron, too much cholesterol, too little cholesterol, etc., 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 then you're going to change the direction so you stay on the path. Does that make sense? Yeah? And so it's going to be different for everybody. It's not one blanket rule for everybody. It's going to be based upon your outcome and how you're doing in relation to your outcome.
Great, thank you. So really want to give Peter a massive round of applause.